Right, let me start again. Hi guys, everyone has a different way they retain and learn information. The lucky people that can just listen and it sinks into them. Anyone here like that? They just have to listen to something and they get it. Anybody else? No. Very few people learn like this. We have visual learners, and visual learners make up the majority. So the visual learner, so Olivia, probably talking about you here, note-taking, writing outlines, drawing flowcharts, everything's color-coded, a little bit chaotic perhaps. And that's what we call the visual learner. The auditory learner, they just have to listen. They use word association, they talk to themselves, they answer questions. Instead of in their head, they'll think it, well, they won't think it out loud. Then we have the kinesthetic learner. Now this is like a combination of the two, and I think most people learn like this. Study by doing, study by learning about the context of things. Structured notes, patterns. Who learns by patterns? That's about the flowcharts. Anyone a pattern learner? They can't understand something until they understand the totality of it. So if you have a whiteboard or you use post-it notes or you build flowcharts, then you're a kinesthetic learner. So the reason that they, instead of just teaching you scientific concepts, you do pracs. So you combine an activity. And some people study best when they're at the gym. So I used to go to the gym and listen to lectures, walk on the treadmill, run on the treadmill, whilst listening to lectures. Doing something that's slightly distracting helps the information sink in. And everyone's heard me rant about using computers to study, haven't they? Because if you're a kinesthetic learner, you learn with your hands. That mind to hand connection is important for everyone, but it's even more important if you're a kinesthetic learner. So instead of me telling you how to study, what we're going to do, I'm going to put this quiz in the chat. I'm going to go through it question by question, and that will hopefully give us an understanding of, let me know once everybody's opened it. Now, some people, you get your all through. So has anybody ever done something like this before where they've gone and looked at their learning style? So you should open it to something. Well, I'm not going to share the screen, otherwise you can't have it open. So I want everyone to open the link. If you're watching the recording, search for Education Planner learning style quiz, and it will come up. And we're doing the 20 questions that are in there. So this is, instead of me telling you how to study, we're going to try and understand ourselves a little bit better so that we can tailor our own study habits to what we need to get done. Right, question 1. What kind of book would you like to read for fun? A book with lots of pictures in it, a book with lots of words in it, or a book with word searches and crossword puzzles? I'm going to go, I like pictures. So pick the most relevant answer to you. So when you're not sure how to spell a word, what are you most likely to do? Write it down to see if it looks right, spell it out loud to see if it sounds right, or trace the letters in the air, spelling with your fingers. And I know some of us, the answer, some of us will be for this. So you're out shopping for clothes and you're waiting in line to pay. What are you most likely to do whilst you're waiting? Look around at other clothes on the racks, talk to the person next to you in line, or fidget or move back and forth. I know which one I am. This questions might seem kind of weird or random, but there is a reason. So when you see the word cat, what do you do first? Do you picture a cat in your mind? Say the word cat to yourself. Think about being with a cat, so petting it or hearing it purr. Obviously, sometimes you probably haven't ever sat there and thought about a cat, but what would be the most likely reaction? So what's the best way for you to study for a test? Do you read the book or your notes and review pictures or charts? Have someone ask you questions you can answer out loud, or make up index cards that you can review? And I'm not putting mine on the screen because I don't want anyone to just follow what I'm doing. It is what is relevant to you. So what's the best way for you to learn about how something works? Get someone to show you, read about it or listen to someone explain it, or do you figure it out on your own? If you went to a school dance, what would you be most likely to remember the next day? The faces of the people who were there, the music that was played, or the dance moves you did and the food you ate? I always remember food just because I like food. What do you find most distracting when you're trying to study? People walking past you, loud noises, or an uncomfortable chair? I think everyone has watched me give someone else, well, no, the uncomfortable chair or feeling uncomfortable really bugs me. When you're angry, what are you most likely to do? Put on your mad face, yell and scream, or slam doors? When you are happy, what are you most likely to do? Smile from ear to ear, talk up a storm, or act really hyper? When you're in a new place, how do you find your way around? I just get lost. Look for a map or directory that shows where everything is, ask someone for directions, or just start walking around until you find what you're looking for. Of these 3 classes, which is your favorite? Art class, music class, or gym class, or PE, if it was industry. When you hear a song on the radio, what are you most likely to do? Picture the video that goes along with it, sing or hum along with the music, or start dancing or tapping your foot. What do you find most distracting when you're in class? Lights that are too bright or too dim, noises from the hallway or outside the building, the temperature being too hot, too cold. So question 15. What do you like to do to relax? Read, listen to music, or exercise? So, what is the best way for you to remember a friend's phone number? Picture the numbers on the phone as you will dial them. Say it out loud over and over and over. Write it down or store it in your phone contacts list. If you won a game, which of these 3 prizes would you choose? A poster for your wall, a music CD or MP3 download, and you guys wouldn't know what either of those things are, or a game of some kind, or like football or soccer or something you could play. Which would you rather go to with a group of friends? A movie, a concert, or an amusement park? What are you most likely to remember about new people you meet? Their face but not their name but not their face, what you talked about. And the final question, when you give someone directions to your house, what are you most likely to tell them? A description of building and landmarks they will pass on the way, the name of the roads or streets they will be on, or will you say, follow me, it will be easier if I just show you how to get there. So I got 5% auditory. I don't remember what people tell me. Rosie wants to kill me most of the time. So people tell me things and I just forget. Visual, not really. I can't just see something and remember it. I have to actually do it. I have to draw a flowchart. I have to draw a stupid picture on the whiteboard. I am a tactile learner. So once you've finished it, put in the chat what kind of learner you are. So we've got 2 auditory, 2 visual, no tactile. Waiting for Maddie and Kelly. We'll see what they are. So, no tactile learners, except for me. So, what's that? 4 visual and 2, well, 3 auditory, I guess, because Kelly is 45% each. Does that make sense with the way that you study and the way that you find things easy to learn? Think about the way you like to learn. Doesn't make sense. Or were you surprised? Are you shocked, or does that? Anybody get what they? Nobody got something they didn't sort of figure. Okay. So I'm just going to show you. If you guys were kinesthetic or tactile, like me, and you learn by touching and doing, but no one is. So if you were a tactile learner, you learn things by building. Anyone that studied science or chemistry and you build the molecules and then you learn about them and you look at them and then you build them, there's a reason that they try to do everything. Because there'll be these 3 different styles in the class and they need to cater for everyone. But do you think by, especially some of you that are like 45% each, 50%, 40%, do you think it's important to study in all 3 ways? And this is one of my gripes with this system that they use. If you are, so Kelly, you're 45% visual and 45% auditory. So do you need to hear it and then see it as well? Even if, like, I am 70% tactile, 25% visual. I don't need to hear things, but there's enough of the visual side that I still do need to see it. When I'm trying to learn something, the way that I learn is that I get someone to do it first, so I watch them. If they tell me how to do it, I've already forgotten it by the time they've finished their sentence. So having an auditory score of 5% makes perfect sense. Visual is 25%. So I like to watch someone do it first. Then I do it whilst being guided by them. Then I do it on my own until I get it perfect. But it's still that 3-step process. I like to, so what was your scores for the tactile? For everybody, if you don't mind me asking. So Izzy got 30% tactile. Kelly got 10%. Yeah. So you don't learn by pulling things apart. You don't learn by having everything in the correct order, do you? So you guys need to see and hear. Olivia and Kelly, do you need like perfect silence and stillness and calmness in order to study properly? Or you get distracted or frustrated easily when you're studying? Okay, so you guys don't like to chew gum. I'm sat here, I've got 3 screens, there's 2 screens over there as well. I've got my whiteboard behind me, I've got my phone, I've got my headphones. I've got 26,000 things going. Does that sound like your personal hell when you're trying to study? So Izzy loves chewing gum, but you are 30% tactile, Izzy. So that does make sense. So Olivia and Kelly, the way that I study sounds like their personal hell. And this is why it's important to understand how your brain works. So I like to study for like 20 minutes and then take a break. I'm going to guess Kelly and Olivia are like, I'm going to study for as long as it takes. And if I stop, I'm out. I can't chop and change. I have to study or not study. Yeah. So I'm constantly tapping which probably drives Kelly and Olivia mad. So, if you're a visual learner, what do you think you can do to help yourself study, to help you remember? So the visual learners, are you note takers? You're not really listening to what they're saying, you're concentrating on writing it down. Some of my students will sit there and write everything I write on the board word for word. And they will draw everything because they visually need to see it and draw it. If you're a visual learner, rewriting your notes in different ways can really help you. So, redraw what's been drawn, rewrite it in different ways. So, if you're trying to learn something new, start by writing an outline of what you're trying to study, if you're a visual learner. Because you're logically making your way through the material, you can see your progression through the material. You create a visual pattern between the information. And through that pattern in your brain that you can actually visualize, that will allow you to recall information. If you don't learn it in a very visual pattern, your brain can't see it. Your brain will not be able to recall. So when you're studying, study it in a logical fashion. So visual learner. Who loves the highlighters? Different colors. So all the visual learners are all about the colored highlighters. So does it make sense why you use a billion different colored highlighters, whiteboard markers? Even though it looks messy and a bit all over the place on the whiteboard when I'm teaching. So I have 12 different, well, I have 7 of those 12 different colors here. All different colors. And that's because the visual learners, having different colors, it allows them to put patterns together in their head. So, yeah. Any study tips from the visual learners? Anything you might do to help you learn the content? Flashcards, so Maddie's in flashcards. There's a little bit, but somewhere between tactile and visual. So flashcards, different colored cards indicating different subjects. So if you're trying to learn about diseases, you would have the system over here, what happens, what's wrong, and then you can like mix them together. So yeah, Olivia, read and do. So what you need to remember is it's not black and white here. Sometimes you'll get a mix. You'll be a mix of the few bits of the different kinds. Unless you're tactile, then you don't do anything else. The visual and auditory, will always mix with the other two a little bit. Anyone that's tactile or kinesthetic, they're just full on kinesthetic. There's not any of the other two really. So who were the auditory learners? Izzy. So Izzy was the auditory. So the way that you guys learn is to listen. Yes, Izzy, I think it's just. And instead of copying down, so Kelly is me-ish, so a little bit. Very rarely are people purely auditory or purely visual. There's usually some kind of carryover through it. Like Kelly is equal on both. So when you're writing notes based on what people say, don't try and write it out word for word. You should, easy way is to just record it and then make notes later, because you learn by listening. So auditory learners really enjoy when I give lectures because they don't have anything to concentrate on the screen. Visual learners hate it because they're just speaking to them. Auditory learners, do you talk to yourself when you're studying? So auditory learners will think out loud. Okay, so when we're teaching like the periodic table, what else is there? Organelles of cells. We can often use songs. So there's lots of catchy jingles on YouTube to learn just about anything and everything there is to learn. Yes, Izzy, the periodic table song. One on all of the organelles of the cell, which I think I showed to you and Anna the other day. So Kelly says how I passed all my primary school spelling tests. So you guys are classic auditory. Ewan says how I learned the times table. Sorry. You guys are not the norm when it comes to learning. If I listen to a song, I've zoned out after about 30 seconds, waiting for it to finish. I've got to be doing stuff. So mnemonics, songs, rhymes. And then when you're studying the exam and you start singing the song, it comes back to you to learn. Most of us, that doesn't work. So, who was tactile? Anna said she was tactile. Kelly, was it? No, Kelly, someone else. So tactile and auditory is not a very common mix. Is it just me and Anna that are tactile? I've been sat here doing this for like the last 15 minutes. I can't sit still. I need to be touching something. I need to be swinging on my chair. My foot is up on my windowsill. I'm swinging back and forth. I'm moving around. Speak with my hands. Do this a lot. It looks a bit chaotic, right, when I'm speaking. It probably is. And that's because when I'm moving, when I'm learning, I have to be moving. And I was saying that I'm switching positions on my chair. I take frequent breaks. So I set and finish a session like 57 minutes past, sometimes 55, depending on what it is. And then I get up and I'll go do something else for 5 minutes and I'll come back. If there was used to be on Thursdays, I would have back-to-back university pharmacology, university organic chemistry, university organic chemistry, year 11 chemistry, year 11 chemistry, and another session. So it's only 6 hours, but I would basically just run them back to back because there was so much content to get through every week that I wouldn't even realize what the time was. Okay, it's 5:59. Okay, gotta go. Then my next session started. By the time I got to the end of the day, I was absolutely wrecked because I didn't get to switch my brain off for 5 minutes. So Anna, if you're tactile, take breaks when you need. When I'm trying to learn something, I can't learn one part of it. I have to learn it all as a whole. And then I pick it apart and then I build flowcharts. And yeah, so there we go. Anna has said she takes breaks and goes outside. So she's very much like me. Poor Anna. So once I get bored, I ain't listening anymore. I have to go and do something else. I'll sit here. Yep, so Anna, exactly like me, I get really agitated. Laying in bed watching something on my phone before bed, I can't lay in the same position for too long. Not even studying, just day-to-day life. There's some days where I'll write a to-do list like that after work, or after I finish teaching. Not even a page long, and it takes me 20 minutes. And then it's done. Other days it takes me 4 hours and I don't get it all done. So lots of hands-on activities, going out into the, if you're learning about science, actually doing it. Not just reading about it or seeing it, but actually doing it, like making a bulb in my garage. So I like to use flashcards, but in a different way. So I will use, I think I should mount. I had about 10 or 15 magnetic squares that I would build flowcharts with and on the whiteboard. And it's not only using flashcards, but arranging them in such a way that it shows a pattern. If I'm trying to spell something, I kind of, in my mind, or I just sit there doing this with my finger, trying to spell, or if I need to draw something, I'm doing it with my finger. I don't even realize that I'm doing it most of the time. It just looks like a weirdo spinning circles with my finger. And here's the problem. I think Anna might face this as well. If I get bored and I take a break, there's a very fine line between taking a break and then coming back, or if it's 30 seconds too long, I ain't going back to studying. I'm going to go do something else. So it's that fine line between having a break and then just not going back. So with tactile learning, you learn by doing, you learn by repetitively doing something, you learn by building relationships between things. You struggle to learn things by themselves. Usually if a topic is 6 weeks long, you don't really understand the topic until the 5th or 6th week when it all comes together. That's how I other auditory learners will say something similar. But there is a problem, and there is always overlap with things. Some hardcore tactile learners, often when they're struggling, you can employ visual and kinesthetic activities to try and get over your mental block. Tactile is really a mix of the other two, but you're just doing it with your hands, and it's chaotic and it's all over the place. And my wife, who is the operations director of operations for the company, she is very organized, methodical. Her admin skills are significantly better than mine. Whereas I am what you call the executive director. I just have all kinds of crazy thoughts in my head. I come up with all the ideas, do all the branding, social media, whereas I couldn't do the admin because I can't sit there for hours typing and doing everything in a methodical, top to bottom way. I like to do my mind and my desk and my emails. Everything is chaos. Stresses my wife out. The way my wife does things stresses me out. But it's about understanding how your brain works. And I implore you, this one will be relatively short, actually, about 40 minutes. But I implore you to do even do a couple of these tests and really dig deep into how your brain works. Because there's no point trying to study if you don't understand how your brain works. You are, sounds bad, but you're kind of wasting your time, but you're not using your time as efficiently as you should. And don't take your scores to be the be-all and end-all. Some auditory learners, every now and then, should switch to one of the other two. And the same with the other two different styles of learning. And sometimes in your study, you should incorporate all three. Some people, hardcore auditory, nothing else works. Some people, hardcore visual, like me, hardcore tactile. You can tell me the same thing 50,000 times, and I'm still not going to listen. Well, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to take it. But most people sit somewhere between two different styles. And you can see that with a lot of your scores in the chat. So have a think, have a play around with some different tests and learn and come up with a plan. And we came up with a plan for 10 weeks out last week. Now we're honing that plan so that you're actually using that time as efficiently as possible.